All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another photo critique. This is episode 10 from the Digital Photo Rec group. I'm Toby.
And I'm Christina.
And I asked you all to post on Facebook links because I like to reward those folks that are involved in both communities. And that's what you all did. And we've got a lot. I'm not surprised because we did this once before and we had a lot and we had to split it up into 2 episodes. We're just going to roll through it. This is the first Christina's heard about that. We're just going to do them all. Just like that.
All right. So be prepared for 5 hours of photo critique.
No, we're going to be precise, concise, and on target.
Okay, let's do it.
And we're going to kick things off here with Evan and Emma from Vincent. 2 cuties and a little stroller sharing a moment together. I like this little foot coming up under what I'm going to assume is Emma. The first thing I noticed from this picture is the eyes, and that's a good thing. You want people to notice the eyes, but in this case, I think you used the Iris Enhance tool in Lightroom too much. The eyes grab your attention, again good, but then I look at them and, we just got a galaxy of information inside Evan's eyes, and Emma's are more in the realm of believable, and excuse me if your children's eyes really do look like this. They are intense, but I'm pretty sure you use the Lightroom Iris Enhance. For anybody who doesn't know, it's a quick little tool, one of the brushes in Lightroom that allows you, it's basically automatically just sets a couple things, nothing magical, but sets a couple things that allows you to kind of bring out the detail in people's eyes that may often get missed, be a little bit underexposed. And used judiciously, it's an excellent tool. I do use it myself often. But if you overdo it, it can get a little bit distracting. So that's the only thing I really think I would add here. Everything else looks pretty good. You really zoomed in. You're all the way at 250. You framed them pretty nicely, and they fill the screen. That's all good. I like that. Anything you want to add, Christina?
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about why the eyes are such a distraction. Well, first I want to really highlight the positive things in this photo, which is that both babies are in focus, and that's great. I mean, there's really great focus, and there's really nice bokeh in the background. So I think that this really bright part in the background could have been a really big distraction, and all of these like spots, these shadow bits could have been distraction, but they weren't because you chose, not the most shallow depth of field because it was 5.6, but you shot at 250, which compressed the background and created a really nice shallow depth of field, and you were pretty close to them. You filled the frame with their 2 faces. So it's great. I would be really happy with this portrait if I had taken it. So let's move. Oh, the light also. The light's really wonderful in their faces. It's like near perfect directional light. So you put them in the shade. Looks like it was probably, a day with full sun. So you put them in the shade, which is the best light, and you got a great image of them. So let's talk about the eyes a little bit. Well, I would like to point out that, maybe you want to remember this because, like little scars and food and little bruises like that are things that kids have, like kids get scratched up and bruised up because they're kids and they're exploring, and so it's a nice reminder of, their nature. If you wanted to take them out, or if they were distracting to you, that I might just do that. And with the eyes, I feel like this is one of those things that I used to do when I first started. I used to really make the eyes super intense. And I feel like it's something that, a few years from now, it's going to look really dated. So the reason, we talk about things that we like and that we don't like. But the reason that we do that is because you want photos to have a certain kind of longevity. You want to look at them 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and feel like they weren't necessarily taken, in the 2000s or whatever you would call it, You want them to not feel like they are dated. So I feel like selective color and like some of like heavy vignetting and things like that. This might be something that you'll look back on, or we will look back on and say, that was a technique that was heavily used that we wish we hadn't. So you know, maybe I think it's really helpful to do something to the eyes, but maybe tone it down just a touch, so it doesn't look so obvious. So subtlety is the key. But great portrait.
One of the issues here, by surprising Christina sitting down tonight, is I didn't show her how many open tabs we have to go through, so she really took her time with that one.
Quality over quantity. That's what I always say.
All right. I'll just add that you were shooting at the maximum aperture for this focal length. It doesn't look as sharp as it possibly could be. Also at 1/80th of a second and 250 millimeters, even with IS, you can start to get a little softness. So I do agree with the softness of the background is great, but maybe going with a slightly higher ISO, slightly faster shutter speed, and stop your aperture down just a little bit might have given you just a little bit of a sharper image, but nice moment.
But at the same time, I just want to point out that if this photo was printed, you wouldn't be able to tell that it's just a teeny tiny bit soft.
Very good. All right, moving on. Thank you, Vincent. Oh, did I go? Yeah, okay. Here we got Victor the Grave, and you can't see Christine and I, and maybe at some point we'll let you see us, but both of us are tilting our head right now, like that RCA dog. So, I'll go again first here. I think that this is a very cool statue. It's got this kind of age to it, looks good. I'm personally not a fan of this, what would I say it called, the Dutch horizon? Or Dutch angle. I can't remember, even though I looked it up and you all reminded me. This purposefully tilting of the horizon to add kind of drama or tension in an otherwise kind of, you know, more static looking image. I don't think it works very well for this. I think what could work well here is take 2-3 steps to the right and frame the statue with these arching branches up above. And I also am not convinced that the statue is as sharp. We don't have any metadata here, but is as sharp as other aspects in this image. So I think you could do some things to kind of change your aperture to kind of soften the background and really isolate this statue. So that's what I'll say about it. But I think this is a really cool spot and a spot you should return to and try some additional angles and captures.
Yep. I would say the framing's pretty cool. I really like the framing. I'm not super crazy about the angle, but you know, you framed it really nicely between like the trees and the background. It looks like the focus is actually on the background and not so much on the statue. That statue looks a little bit soft. So so watch your focus and where it is. And then to me, this chromatic aberration that you can see in this high contrast area between the dark part of the trees,
purplish fringing around those spots.
That's a little bit distracting to me. Yeah. So this is something if you use Lightroom or some other editing software, you can easily correct for. You know, a lot of lenses do this, especially wide-angle lenses. So I might just correct for that. But yeah, so that's what I got.
Great. Thank you, Victor. Now we got one from Scott. He took this morning. Nice sunrise.
So this is a really nice moment, I think. It's just a really beautiful sunrise. I wish I had been there because it looks really, really intense. And it looks like you didn't do any post-processing on it either. I say that because the first thing that stands out to me is the horizon line. You know, a little bit of cropping would have straightened out that horizon and then, you know, would have been fine. Otherwise, we have a little bit of symmetry in the sense that the tree is right in the middle, and so there's sort of a very similar shapes and very similar things on either side. But then we have the sun, which is a big part of, you know, focus, and then we have these birds that also actually take our attention. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like this picture is strong as it is. I just love the colors. It's just a really nice moment. I might just correct that horizon line and then you've got a pretty solid shot. But I think that's all I have to say about it.
Okay. I think the colors and the exposure here is good. Could have gone to you could have swapped these two. You're shooting at a fairly wide aperture, and the exposure you ended up with is fine. You could get the same exposure by going to a smaller aperture and a slower shutter speed. You have plenty of room to work with your shutter speed here, and that would have given you just a little bit more sharpness. Now we don't really see, but back here we can start to kind of feel like these trees are a little bit on the softer side. I think focus was probably back there fairly far, so it doesn't really affect. The other thing, you had asked me for some sunrise, sunset kind of advice, and I said don't put the sun in the middle, and you did that, but you could give it a little bit more room. This is getting a little too close to the edge of the frame, and I tell you what I think would be a great, I don't think this tree right here adds anything to this. It's just kind of here. I think zoom in to 55 and just shoot right here. This is where the story is. These trees, the cool reflection going down and leading to the sun. So a zoom in that area right there would be a great shot. So a reason to get up early in the morning some other time. But I think the colors, exposure, very nice. Thank you, Scott. So excited that you went out, shot this morning, put it in the group, and now we critiqued it. Zisuto.
So this is a cool image. Because I think it tells the story really well. So the story is that your skates failed you and the bearing broke, and you had a fall, and so that shows the broken bearing, and it gives us a lot of information as to why, as to what the picture is about. So I really like that, the content. I find it really interesting that you were able to get a pretty shallow depth of field on those wheels in the background at 5.6. It looks like you were zoomed in to 135 millimeters, so that really helps. Again, we can't stress the compressing of the background enough. If you have a zoom lens, even if you don't have a super ultra wide maximum aperture, you can still get a really nice depth of field and isolate your subject nicely. So this was really well done. The subject's framed in the middle of the frame, which normally we kind of don't love that, but I think it works here because everything else is pretty much even. I don't really see any distractions. I mean, I think the dust that's around the bearing, that could be a little bit distracting. It's just kind of part of the whole thing. Like, I wouldn't expect that to be clean anyway. So great shot, great exposure, and everything. I didn't mention that before.
Yeah, I think really nice exposure. I think this is an excellent example of how shallow a depth of field you can get. There may have been some cropping here. Zisuto, let us know if you did a little bit of cropping, but
I don't think there was.
You don't think so? Okay.
No.
But yeah, just great. Zoomed all the way into 135. Christina said that, but I'm going to repeat it because if you got a zoom lens, zoom in, fill the frame with your subject. And in this case, you've done a nice balance of subject and the rest of the story kind of in the background. And when I saw this at a smaller scale, I saw a thumbnail of this earlier tonight. I thought, oh, those guys in the background are a little distracting. But here on full screen, it works very well, and I think it tells the story very nicely. Nice job. Thank you, Zisuto. Now we got one from Andrea Bovolo. Tulips.
I love this. This is so pretty. I love the composition too. It's like, it's split up into segments, not necessarily into thirds, but I love the sort of like gradation effect, and that this, gradually is smaller. Each chunk is smaller than the other, and I think that's just perspective, that there's actually, as many of these tulips as there are of these and of this. So I love this picture. I think it just says spring to me, which is what I love about it the most. But it's just really well. It's nicely taken. Nicely done.
This is another great example of zooming in. I know so often we get these wide angle lenses. We want to shoot wide and feel like we're capturing the whole thing. But on Andrea, zoomed in to 72. I think that was the maximum on their camera, and captured this, what still looks fairly wide, but narrow slice. I don't know what I'm talking about here. Narrow slice of these ribbons. My only wonder is if there'd been just a little bit more room. I'm not crazy about the way this top row gets cut off.
I think it's great.
Okay, Christina thinks it's great, so I'm going to go
Nothing else matters.
Nothing else matters. Overall, really nice picture. Nice job. Edison, did I skip? No, okay. Edison. Edison sang, glitter and reflection, taking a trip to Macau. So I think this is another great image. We're having a lot of fun tonight. You guys are putting some really nice images in here. One of the things that I think this image can illustrate is a bit of distortion you get with these longer focal length lenses and shooting very wide. If we look at this, the horizon to me looks pretty straight. Yes. But we have just a little bit of a leaning of this tower, and I am smart enough to know that's not the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So I'm pretty sure that if you were standing there looking at that, you would say that tower's straight up and down. But in this image, with the distortion out at the edges, you get this little bit of bending. What can you do about it? Well, honestly, in this situation, there probably isn't a whole lot you could do. You could try backing up and zooming a little bit to get into the focal lengths, your more normal ranges, 30, 50 in that general area, and you would get rid of some distortion. You can also correct in Lightroom for distortion. That will often straighten things, and you know it does a good job.
But you have to leave enough room to be able to compensate for the crop.
That's right. The closer to the edge things are, the more the harder it is going to be to correct for that. And in this case, I think you could get rid of this stuff on the right here, this darker building that's not lit up as much, and really just bring it in so it's really the bridge.
But now without cropping out some of the tall building, I think, or at least the reflection
of this tall of the yes, you're good. I agree. It's some of that's gonna get chopped off, and maybe this might get distracting over here. But I would like to see this recomposed so that we're missing this right couple of inches and we have a little bit more room over here and we'll get a little bit less distortion. But I think your exposure here is very, very nice. 30 seconds, smoothed out that water, brought some beautiful reflections. We actually have a little bit of blowouts here in some of these areas that are lit up, and that's just really tough to do on these longer exposures, but maybe a little bit slower or stop your aperture down another stop or a third to avoid that. Otherwise, I like it. There's some little distracting light right here that's bothering me. That could be cloned out really quickly. Everything else I think looks nice. Anything to add, Christine?
Nope, that's it. You said it all.
Thank you, Edison. All right, G. Chappelle Osprey at Downs Park in Pasadena, Maryland.
All right, so I think the first thing that stands out to me about this picture is a very heavy vignette. And kind of like the eyes in the very first picture, I actually talked about vignette as one of those techniques that people really like to use that I think will look pretty outdated later on. So here we have a really awesome picture, really nice crisp picture capture of a bird in motion. And then you kind of added a vignette to close in and bring focus and attention more on the bird. But I think, in my opinion, of course, if you really love the vignette, then, you know, I think that's great. But I think, in my opinion, you'll look back at this picture in a few years and maybe change your mind about the vignette and not really love it so much. And I could be wrong, but, you know, when I look back at my own pictures with lots of really heavy vignettes, I don't love them as much. The other thing that really stands out to me about this picture is the treatment. So this blue that's around this bird is not a sky blue. It's a kind of like a teal, sort of almost like mint kind of color. And it almost seems to be bleeding onto some parts of the bird, like right here that looks a little bit green, a little bit blue. So the color balance is a little bit off in my opinion. I think the color balance could be a little bit more accurate. And so I guess one of the things that we should kind of say, and I think we've said this before, but one of the sort of guidelines, or guidelines is a good word for it, that we use to kind of critique pictures is, you know, we try to get pictures to look as close to real life as possible, as accurate. We want the colors to look accurate. We want the picture to be free of distractions, distracting elements, free of things that will make it outdated later on. So that's kind of where we're basing our critique on. So if you really like to take more of an artistic freedom and do all of these things to your pictures, go nuts, and that's great. But we're going to critique them based on these, these guidelines. I felt like I should just say that.
Yep.
So
No, I think that's good to say.
Okay. So I think otherwise the composition's really great. The action's really great. I think that you've captured the bird at a really, really perfect moment. You nailed the focus and the exposure, and there's nothing to me that looks blown out and nothing to me that looks like it's too dark. I think, the exposure is perfect and the composition is perfect, and I wish you toned down the vignette a little bit, but that's just my personal taste.
Yep. I think that this photo seems to be part between reality and painting, and I keep looking at it's partly the way the feathers are on here, but it almost looks like one of those pictures someone's taken and turned into a painting, which sometimes can really work well.
Oh,
and
I can see that now.
This is a little bit between that, and I can't quite decide if it's one or the other, and I think you should go all the way or dial it back. But all the positive things Christina said are right there. I think this is a really awesome moment. Love to see those birds, and very nice. Thank you, G. Chappelle. Marianto. Now, Marianto's actually had a lot. We've definitely critiqued Mariantos before, so we're going to be very brief here. Horizon is a little crooked. The right-hand side looks just a little bit further up to me than the other. And I'm curious what our shutter speed here is. 2.5 seconds. This is one of those things, what f13 ISO. All right, so you couldn't have gone too much longer of the shutter speed without getting into really small apertures, which I think, but I really would have liked to seen a little bit more streaking and smoothness down here in the water and in the clouds. But I think the exposure is nice, and I think the colors are really nice, and this is another cool place.
Yeah, I would like to add that I think I remember critiquing a couple of Marianto's pictures in the past, and I think that there were a couple where we said, go back, explore this place from some different angles and see what you get, and try not to crop really important elements or put them too close to the edge. And I think this is one of those pictures where I feel like you have watched our critique videos and you've taken our feedback into account, and you've got a really awesome, really strong shot because all of the major elements are where they should be. And yes, that horizon line could be a little bit straighter. I don't mind the water so much. I think it's kind of cool, but everything else looks really great, and the sunset's beautiful. The colors are beautiful. So good job, Marianto.
Yep, very nice. Thank you. Norbert and Noshima. This reminds me of one of the very first images that we critiqued that was kind of an otherworldly beach scene. It was a composite. This is not a composite. This is an actual picture, but...
Was that the eclipse picture?
No, way back in the very first episode where it was like...
No, this one.
Oh, is it the eclipse picture? March 8th.
Why else would it be red?
Well, that was my first question. Why is the sun red that high in the sky? I'm not sure.
It's the sun. I thought it was the moon.
I think it's the sun. We have a 1/80th. Yes, it's not long enough to be a moon. So I think the colors are off enough here that it makes the brain go, is this off this world from someplace else? I think that the horizon might be a tiny bit crooked too. The right-hand side is down a little bit lower.
It's not really.
No? Okay, I'm just trying to channel Christina. So really, I think comment is it just doesn't feel realistic with the sun that color and also dead center. So I think that this is where we could capture a little bit more foreground, have less space up above the sun, and we could also have some more realistic colors in there as well.
Okay. I'm going to disagree with you completely for this picture.
All right.
I dig it. I really like it. I like the colors. I do recognize that they're a little funky. So this falls on the spectrum of something that doesn't look realistic. Or like you said, like it would in real life. But I guess, to me, in my weird, This is the way that I kind of think about these things. If you're gonna go as far as to like make a very sort of surreal, like, you know, fictional photo, go all out. Like, don't just kind of do it. Like you said, you know, either go for the effect completely or don't do it at all. So I feel like this is going there. This is like taking it, you know, pretty far. So you've created this like really not real, you know, really unrealistic scene, but it looks really cool in my opinion. I think it looks really cool. I really like the center. I think this is sort of an example of kind of what I meant by symmetry when we, you know, assigned that previous assignment, you know, except for these things. I like the crop a lot. I like that it's square, and I don't know. There are lots of things that really work for me about this picture. Like this feels really symmetrical. This in a way feels really symmetrical. And I really like the colors and the tones. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Norbert. Brian Sizemore's got Waiting for Beef. That's how I feel like you should announce this title. So this is kind of weird talking about, this reminds me in somewhat of that kind of outside shot of the gentleman sitting on the bench. This is just this kind of moment captured. And, you know, there's a lot of cool things here. The handwritten porterhouse, glimpses of meat, guy back there working.
Oh, we can see you in the reflection.
Oh, yeah. Where is he holding the camera?
I'm not sure.
Oh. Oh, yeah, his hand's right there.
Up there, up on the,
right
yeah, there we go.
Yep. Cool. Oh, and this is with the Fuji.
Selfie.
X100. Secret meat selfie. All right, so I think this is really cool. And I kind of, this feels to me like the back of the old grocery store. It's got those nice colors to it. I think the exposure's good there.
Those nice fluorescent colors to it.
Yeah, those nice fluorescent colors. I mean, it feels genuine. And it is, which is good. I think it's a tiny bit crooked. The counter seems a little higher on the left. And I wish there was just a little bit more room to give this guy. He's kind of the subject. He's waiting for the beef. I'd like to see all of them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Just having him cut off just that little bit is too little. But otherwise, I think it's great.
Yep, I agree. And yeah, it does have that kind of nice sort of street photography feel to it. So I feel like there's a lot more freedom in like composition and like being really nitpicky about things. So yeah, cool shot.
Cool, nice. Does it make you want some porterhouse?
No.
Okay. Trolls. Sorry if I said that wrong. It's got this little flower here.
This is a forget-me-not?
It may be. I don't know. So we made some adjustments in Lightroom. They added contrast, plus 100. Ooh, that's a lot of contrast.
All right. It looks
Clarity,
cool.
plus 48. And crop the photo slightly. I think this is a really nice photo.
Yes.
I like it a lot. This is the 7D, 18 to 35. All right, at 35. Zoomed in, good. F1.8, nice. 1/16, 1/600, so we got the sun. I think this is great. It's a strong image. This kind of reminds me when we were discussing a few weeks ago of the dandelions, a bit of foreground blur.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is, this works here. I really like this focus line here. Brings my eye into the moss and then, of course, up to the flower. That's good. I get a little distracted by that back there.
You're being really nitpicky.
Am I? Okay. I thought you would say that.
Well, it did stand out to me.
I always just try to critique images. I think, what would Christina say? WWCS.
I did look at it, but I feel like there are some times where I feel kind of silly being like too critical of a picture. Like, we're not judges at a photo competition. Let's be real.
But we're trying to give people some...
I know.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned it, but let's not dwell on it.
Okay. I don't think it's worth dwelling on either.
Okay. I think you should print this, and you should frame it, and you should display it proudly.
One other notice I see there, extra bit of vignetting. So they added in some vignetting. How do you feel about that after you busted that other guy's butt?
Well, see, it's not that obvious because you can't see like a crazy...
It fits in the picture.
Yeah, it's a lot more subtle.
Yeah.
I will say it looks strange, like this darkness right here. It looks a little like
crop
weird.
that?
No, I don't think I would crop it. I might lighten it a little bit, but that's
Okay.
just me. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I guess that's sort of, it just makes me wonder, like, is this just a hump?
It's a hump.
Okay. I guess it's just a hump. Whoopsie. So yeah, I think you should
great.
print it and frame it.
Nice. Print it, frame it, send us a picture of it on your wall. Thank you, trolls. All right, Ian's got this one. And I think this has a ton of potential. But, Ian, you were lazy. I feel bad saying that. But you went here. Maybe it was on your lunch hour, and this was the only time of day you could get here.
Lazy is not good. What if he was traveling and
You're
he
right.
couldn't come back here
I
ever?
made terrible assumptions.
Yes.
But here's what I want to say, Ian. This place is awesome. I hope you can get back here, and you need to do it in the morning, early, or the evening, or wait till this stuff blooms out more and gives you some shade, because
you might get light spots.
You might get light spots. That's true. So you were trying to get that longer exposure to get that soft flowing water, which I love those images. I have a soft spot. Soft spot for soft flowing water pictures. And you did everything you could to get there by shooting all the way at f/22 to get you and ISO 100 to get as low as that, and then to get as long as shutter speed as 1.6 seconds. So I want you to go back here, and I want you to shoot this again. I also would like you to really, I would crop in. Shoot just this area.
No.
No, really? Get the whole thing?
Well, I mean, I could see a good picture just from that area, but I also really like the composition.
That's true.
I really love the moss.
Yep. I do love the moss as well. I think there are ways to get a smaller amount of this and the mossiness, but maybe not. Okay, so try a couple, Ian. You can tell who's the boss here. But be able to shoot at a longer, and also don't shoot quite long enough that this becomes completely, we've lost detail in most of this area.
Yeah, I really like how much it's like kind of in motion, but not really. I really like the choice of shutter speed here. It works really well. My only suggestion to this is tone down or I guess tone up, or add a little bit more contrast here.
Oh yeah.
The shadows feel a little flat. I think you may have tried to bring them up in Photoshop or in Lightroom, and they just feel a little too flat.
I think it's just slightly overexposed, and that's why we're getting this flatter feel.
Yeah, just add a teeny bit of contrast.
Yep. But huge potential here. And, you know, I started to say just capture this area because I was thinking of focusing on that. But Christina's right. This composition here is really nice. It's really strong. And so I'd like to see
you tend to kind of really zone in on like the waterfalls. That's your thing.
Well, I do feel like, you know, we're thinking about what the subject is here. It's this flowing water. And so I was thinking about capturing, you know, you have looked at flowing water pictures I've shot before and said, just get this, you know, zoom in.
But when it's really distracting, but this scene is not that distracting. It's really cool looking.
It's true.
So you kind of have to, there's ways to really highlight your subject and still be able to frame it and showcase what's around it.
I'm glad we're both here to critique these images. All right, Brandon Bright's got one of his daughter, Bailey.
That's cute.
It is cute. Her expression is very cute, the little wrinkled nose, and I'm not sure if she's squinting because it's a little bright or what, but that's a nice moment.
Yes. I don't know if I have much to add. I like that you put the sun to her back, and you shot her in the shade. The light isn't awesome on her face, but it's definitely much better. It's like 1,000,000 times better than if you had her facing the sun. I might lighten the shadows just a little bit. Like I might bring this picture up, and make her face a little bit brighter. But other than that, I don't know if this was a portrait I took of my daughter. I think I would really love it. So I don't think I have much more to add.
I agree. I think it's very nice. You know, it's a little bit of sun's catching on the hair there. That's fine.
That's great.
You want to watch out for any sun on the face, and there isn't any. I think you maybe could have squatted down a little bit more. We feel like we're just above her eye level. No? Christina's shaking her head no. I am going to stick to my guns on this one and say I think you could have squatted down a little bit more.
I think...
Just to add something in.
Really?
You also, you were shooting at 23 millimeters, so you could have gone to a wider aperture and softened the background just a little bit. There's not too much distance between her and the background, but that's something to think about. Shoot a little bit wider.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I will say that these lines, now that you mentioned that, are a little bit, these intersecting lines are a little bit distracting, so.
Yeah.
But.
Since we started going down that road, we could say you could shift to the left a little bit to frame her at least in that line as opposed to intersecting her.
But then her face might be in the sun, so maybe that's not that. So maybe you just did the best you could with that.
I feel like sometimes we try to be so nice and we just got to be like, here, people put their pictures here, and we say, here, you could have shifted a little bit to the left. And yes, maybe it's been in the sun, but next time, think about that.
Okay.
I know. Tough. Hey, we saw that one already. All right. Jorge. Columbra Dawn. I wonder where this is.
Wow.
Oh, Portugal Unlimited? Yeah, that's what I say. Wow. It's a strong image.
Yeah.
I feel like a little... You want to say something?
Well, yeah. I think all I wanted to say was that this is a little bit distracting here. I think that it would be perfect without this stuff. And just, this one's good. These, not so much. It also, that looks a little bit soft back there, but I'm not sure if it is. So.
It shouldn't be shooting at f/16.
Yeah.
It does look a little soft back there, but it works. The only thing I was going to say is really orange down here. Now I know these lights are orange, but we do feel like orange, orange, blue, yellow, blue. So we got, and it's not something you can necessarily deal with you have different colored lights, but I may have tried in Lightroom to tone the orange down in this area and given this a little bit more of a cast that reflects the sky. But I think otherwise, beautiful place, nice picture. Get rid of that one light that's just hanging out there floating like a UFO. Thank you, Jorge.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's my Elvis impression.
Great. So this picture's got kind of like a sun flare-y sort of effect going on, which is, it's cool, it's pretty. I like the composition. I wish it wasn't as tilted, the photo. You know, this guy's a little bit distracting in the background, but I don't think that's a huge deal because, again, one of these, I'm sure this shot, like, you know, there was only so much planning you could do. I might shoot it from a slightly lower perspective. You know, in the future, I'm saying, you know, when you have really distracting things like this right here and this guy right here, I may shoot it from a lower perspective. And his face looks really red. And his face might just be kind of red, just naturally. Like he might be sunburned or something, I don't know. But I would try to just correct the white balance for skin tones to make the skin tone look a little bit less pink. So I might add a little bit of tint and try to correct for that. Otherwise, it's a great capture.
Yeah, I think it's a cool moment. You know, Elvis talking on his cell phone. This guy back here keeps distracting me. But otherwise, I think it's good, and I like the sun flare and kind of mostly backlighting him.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adam. Jarn Olsen, Grey Lags, Sweden. I like this. We get to take a trip around the world when we critique people's photos.
Yeah.
Yeah, Christina loves it too. All right, so I love that Jarn, says that they underexposed this a little bit, but because they shot raw, was able to bring it up in Lightroom.
Awesome.
Which is great. I think cut off just a tiny bit of the goose foot or Grey Lag's foot. We'd call him some kind of goose here in America. Otherwise, I love the way the composition here of the two of them standing, kind of intersecting with each other, but this little bit of space right here between their beaks or their heads works nicely. They don't look quite as sharp to me as they could be. f/6.3200, well, all that looks good. What was it, 18 to 270? I don't know. I don't see anything else in the image that is sharper. Maybe. So I'm going to say that's fine. Anything to add?
Nope.
I would say there's a lot of extra space up there, but it doesn't really matter. bring it down just a little bit so you don't cut the foot off, get rid of that extra space up there. But neat, and they're both looking at you. I like it. All right, despite my best efforts to really focus on quantity over quality, we're realizing that we're going to run out of time with enough to still critique. So we are going to split this up, and we will be back next week to give you our thoughts on the remaining images from this group. Thanks so much for watching, and please, if you want your image critiqued, you know, we're seeing all kinds of images here, and we love it. Please submit your images to the Digital Photo Rec Flickr group, and keep an eye out on the Facebook page for the ones we'll be critiquing in the future. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.